Hello, all of you beautiful people around the world. My name is Ryan, aka Say It With Me, Blackbeard TCG. Hope you all are having an absolutely amazing day, and if not, hopefully I can make it a little bit better. Now, look, in today's video, we are going to be talking about Joy Boy, Gear 5th, Monkey D. Luffy Secret Rare, being meta. It's being utilized in this early 3-4 days into the meta over in Asia, with decks like Red Purple Luffy taking first place, with decks like Mono Purple Luffy taking first place. And hey man, we talked about it. I made videos on my channel for both of these leaders talking about how ridiculous I think they are. Just the ramp is absolutely insane, and the cards are out and they're definitely performing. So if you guys don't know, Luffy's on the screen right now. So when you play this Luffy, you send back all of your Dawn, and then you're able to take another turn. Now it's interesting because you get 2 free ramp with this Monkey D. Luffy as well. So you send back all of your Dawn, you get 1 ramp with this Luffy, you can continue the rest of your turn, do whatever you want. Then you get to take another turn in which you can then use Luffy's ability again and add 1 more Dawn, right? Then of course, from there, you could also use your leader ability depending on what leader you're playing and all of those things. To continue to ramp, you get 2 Dawn at the start of your turn, all of those things. So you send back 10, but then you actually have a decent amount of Dawn to play with on your next turn that you get with this Luffy. It's really, really cool, really interesting. At first, people weren't too sure what place it would have, but now in practice, people are realizing how strong this can be, especially when you have access to something like Diablo Jump as well. So that way you can go ahead and make it unblockable, which is definitely something that will be an absolute threat in the late game with this red and purple Luffy build, because as you can see, this is playing a very, very aggressive setup, right? Obviously you have the 4 Newgate, you have the 4 Radical Beam because it's Asia, they're able to play that. I'm extremely jealous. I won't harp on it too much because you guys already know how jealous I am of them being able to have this. It's so funny, the irony of that, right? I say that I'm jealous because I want to play red and purple Luffy, and so I want to be able to play these cards in my red and purple Luffy, but I absolutely hate Whitebeard and I hate Zoro. I also Law I don't hate. I like Law. Law was playing this too, but it's funny, the irony of me saying that just because I want to play Luffy now, right? That's why I always say it's always funny when people cry for nerfs, cry for ban and stuff like that, because when you're playing it, you love it. When you hate it, ban this card, right? So anyways, 4 copies of that makes sense, but we're seeing 4 copies of Rush Zoro, 4 copies of Rush Unblockable Luffy. Again, you combo that with the Diablo Jump. You have the Luffy as well to close out games at the end. With the 10 cost, you can combo that with Diablo Jump on the second turn as well. So it just feels really, really good. Then you have the Nami to search, right? You're also playing Sabaody. You have Sabaody to search. Obviously, you have guard points for defense. And the defense is nothing to laugh at as well, right? Because you have 6k power. Sure, you're 3 life, but you have 6k power, so your defense is going to be really good. But then on top of that, you have blocker, Trafalgar Law. And on top of that, Queen, which is one of the best blockers in the game just because of its ability. So, overall, it's a quite well-rounded build, right? It's very aggressive. It has a clear game plan, but it can also play defensive as well. I like it. It got first place. It had over 400 players. Red and purple Luffy popping off 3 copies of this secret rare Monkey D. Luffy. I wonder how expensive this is going to be. Obviously, this is the regular art. There is the alternate art as well as the manga art. I'm sure people aren't going to be playing with the manga arts, but it'll be interesting to see how much the alternate arts are going for this Luffy. Let's go ahead and take a look at a mono purple Luffy list. This one came in first place. This one was a lot smaller of a tournament, more of a locals, 11 players, so more basically of a locals. But again, it's still nice to see deck lists, right? A win is a win, and we see 2 copies of Monkey D. Luffy here. Now, in this version of Luffy, the star of the show, interestingly enough, for mono purple Luffy, isn't Monkey D. Luffy, although this card is obviously very strong and it allows you to have plays that you don't otherwise have access to in terms of closing out the game. But it's this card. 5 cost, Useless Captain Kid. This is the real sauce. I think it's so funny because, don't get me wrong, the starter deck Useless Captain Kid is a beast, right? And I made a video talking about how, oh, is he the next boogeyman or whatever. I think that this card is still very strong. Please do not get me wrong. However, this kid is absolutely insane. 5 cost, 6,000 power with counter, with blocker, and it makes you basically refresh a Dawn, right? You send a Dawn back, and you get it active, right? So that's the main thing that you have to remember. That's what makes it so strong. Because you can use, like, let's say you're utilizing your queen, for example, right? Let's say you utilize your queen, you send one Dawn back, right? So in the event that you play your queen, you're sending back one of the Dawn that you just used to play the queen, and you already have your kid on board. You're essentially paying it for 4 costs because you're getting 1 active Dawn back when you have Useless Captain Kid on board. This card is so strong. Thank God it's once per turn. Obviously, if you have multiple of these out, it just becomes nuts. This is also searchable with pirates, right? You could search this, you could search this law, you could this law, you could search this kid, you could search law, right? So again, you could search Luffy if you need. This deck is actually surprisingly consistent. And yeah, I think that, in my opinion, this deck is going to be an absolute problem. I'm going to show you guys a couple other deck lists, but this deck looks so strong because, you know, people look at Purple Luffy and they're just like, huh. It's interesting because you have to take 1 card from your life and then you get to ramp up a Dawn. But when you read it that way, I kind of talked about this in my other video, that I made about Purple Luffy. And if you guys didn't see that, you guys can go ahead and take a look at that video. Keep in mind, not all the purple cards were revealed, so the deck list has drastically changed. So don't follow that deck list, but I talked about the principles. The core principles stay the same. If you read the card just as is, it's just like, okay, like I'm giving up life to ramp. But the thing is, you're drawing and you're ramping. That's the way you have to look at it. And that is powerful, right? You get to get 1 additional Dawn per turn should you choose, and you get to draw a card because, as we know, getting cards in this game, you either get it by searching, you get it by hard drawing a card at the start of your turn, or using a card ability that lets you draw, right? Like Sanji's Peel-Off or like Sakazuki Leader ability, right? Or you take it from life. That's basically the only ways that you can get card advantage. And so being able to force that with your Monkey D. Luffy and get a ramp tool is very, very strong. Now, of course, you can't just do it willy-nilly. You're not just going to do it every single turn because it's going to kamikaze. You're going to kill yourself. But when you have defense, right? When you have Wire, when you have Trafalgar Law, when you have Blocker Kid, what I just talked about, which is so powerful, right? You have these blockers. You have Queen. You have a ton of blockers. You have offensive cards like the Useless Captain Kid, like the Sanji, right? Which is a vanilla, but it's 6 cost, 8,000 power, which is very difficult to deal with. This stat line, it's going to be interesting seeing a lot more of these stat line type of cards because you know, there's going to be cards that can kill things based on cost now, right? We're seeing a lot of things bottom decking stuff, or a lot of things killing things within certain power ranges. 6 cost, 8,000 power is a very nice spot. So we're going to see a lot more of these stat lines, I think, in decks. 6 cost, 8,000 power. And so that's really nice to have. And you can play that early with Monkey D. Luffy. When you're able to drop cards like this a turn earlier than you're supposed to, it's really devastating for your opponent, right? So overall, this list looks really solid. I really like this list. I can't wait to really get my hands on the exact cards in this list of playtest because, like, obviously we are missing some stuff in the sim. The idea still kind of works because you could replace some of the 2K counters and stuff like that, like instead of using the Frankie and things like that. But then you have to remember, you also miss out on potentially ending games, right, with this Frankie because we don't have it in the sim right now. But we will have it soon. This deck feels really good. So this is one of the mono purple Luffys that is, again, running 2 copies of the Secret Rare Luffy. Here we come to another one. 3 copies of the Secret Rare Luffy, and this list is almost identical, but we see a couple different things, right? We see the Rush Kaido, so playing a little bit more aggressive with the Rush Kaido, with the Basil Hawkins really focusing up on ramp, right? So that's a little bit of a difference. This one running Wire, running different things in terms of being a little bit more defensive with the Blast Breath and things of that nature, whereas this build is deciding not to run those and rather running the Basil Hawkins and the Kaido to further the ramp, further the speed, and get the aggression out there, right? Build looks the same for the most part. Obviously, you're going to see 4 copies of this Captain Kid. I mean, yeah, this card, I'm also going, I should have put this in my hot take. I think that this card makes Magellan so strong. Like, I think Magellan's going to be really good this format. I think all purple decks are good this format, right? Like, we all thought this kid was strong, and it is, but this kid's ridiculous. That kid's strong, but this kid it's absurd, right? So, again, game plan is going to be the same with this list, right? It's nothing really drastic. It's just that this one's slightly more defensive while this one is more offensive, right? And then playing another copy of, again, the Secret Rare Luffy. So, hey guys, it's playable. It's popping off. We're seeing it in 3 lists. The last list I want to talk about here, first place in the 3-on-3 tournament, is running more of a Impel Down focus build, right? So again, we see this kid, right? We got to see him. We see the Trafalgar Laws. We see the Sanji, right? We talked about the 6 cost, 8,000 power. That line is really, really good right now. But we see the Impel Down package, right? We see the Hannibal, we see the Magellan, we see the Domino, we see the Sphinx, we see things of that nature. And you're probably wondering why, right? So this is just my headcanon. This is just my opinion as somebody that's played a ton of Magellan. I haven't played this version of the Luffy build yet myself, so I can't say exactly, but I've played enough Magellan to tell you the idea behind it. Being able to stun certain decks feels amazing. Now, what do I mean by stun? The fact that when you play Magellan, you get to get rid of one of their Dawn on their board. It changes up their entire game plan, right? They're literally playing with one less Dawn than they thought that they would have. So it literally sometimes will throw things back by one extra turn, in a way kind of making you one turn ahead. The thing is with Magellan 2 is the fact that it's 6k, so it's a great attacker as well. And when it gets KO'd, then you get to return 2 of your opponent's Dawn to the bottom of their deck. So more often than not, for the mid game, this card is going to stick. This card's sticking on the board into the late game, unless it's going to be like a blue deck that's going to spin it to the bottom, right? Whether you have your Borsalinos or you use like other cards as well to potentially spin it to the bottom. I feel like that's the only time. Other than that, this is sticking for a while, and it's going to wreak havoc. So you have the ability to search with Hannibal as well, right? Hannibal's going to be able to search that. But then you also have access to Hell's Judgment, which is one of the best events, in my opinion, in the entire game. Having access to Hell's Judgment, allowing you to neg 3,000 for 2 of your opponent's characters is very, very powerful, okay? So again, do I think that this is the optimal way to build Purple Luffy? I don't know. This set's been out for 3 or 4 days. I don't know. I'm just going off these lists here. So I'm not saying anything. I'm not claiming anything. All I'm saying is I could see why this works, because these core cards in Magellan are just powerful purple cards, like just objectively. And it's nice to see that it's splashable, but more importantly, it's nice to see the deck creativity. All of these lists are different and all of them are performing. Guys, this one doesn't have oh my God, why is it slipping my mind? I'm looking at him right now. Gear 5th. You know, I was thinking Ultra Instinct just because I was looking at the weight. I was literally gonna say Ultra Instinct Luffy, guys. That's why I was just like, I don't want to say it. I don't want to say it. Gear 5th. This one doesn't have the Gear 5th Luffy, but I just wanted to show it to you guys because I thought it was interesting because it was running the Magellan build and was still able to hold its own. I don't know how well it performed because I didn't actually see the post itself, because the 3-on-3 tournament, obviously, like, not to say that other decks can be carried, but like typically there's 1 or 2 decks that really pop off and then people play other stuff. But I do believe that the decks that the people were running for this was red purple Luffy, mono purple Luffy, and then red purple Lost. So I mean, again, purple is just eating good. So let me know your guys' thoughts. What are your guys' thoughts on all the purple so far within the first 4 days of the format? And let me know if you guys think how radically the format's going to change on a week-to-week basis. I will continue to keep you guys updated. I'm just excited that this card has some meta play. I will catch you guys later. Stay tuned for my Rebecca guide coming out tomorrow. Peace.